Good day, everyone, and welcome to the African Conference 2021, and also welcome to the panel for the African Working Group. My name is Adeola Akonde, and I'm currently the chairperson of the African Working Group for PMI. And today we are here to have a panel discussion on a topic, project management in a COVID world. As a bit of introduction, the coronavirus impacts have tested the ability of organizations to effectively deliver projects and programs. Some projects and programs adapted quickly and effectively, with project managers being able to pivot to remote working, while other projects have had substantial delays or cancellations. As organizations start to return to a new normal, we consider what this will look like for project and program management, and what are the long and short-term changes. With me today, I have a panel, and I'm going to call them one by one, and they're going to introduce themselves. So the first person I will call on the panel is Bayo Aderele. He's also a member of the African Working Group.
Okay, good day, everybody, and it's a pleasure being part of this conference. My name, as introduced by Adiola, is Bayo Aderele. I'm a project manager working for Nigeria LNG over the past 24 years. And in that capacity, over the years, I've been able to work in various capacities, from project engineering to maintenance to reliability management. And also, I've stepped out of my role in LLNG to work in Shell Global Solutions as an operations and asset management consultant. And I'm back here now leading a team of engineers delivering front-end development to projects in our organization. I have an engineering degree and an MBA, and I'm a founding member of the African Working Group, and my focus is leading the advocacy group, which is a subgroup under the African Working Group, working with Adiola and other colleagues on the call. So it's a pleasure being here with you all this day, and I'm looking forward to an exciting conversations on project management. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bayo. Next, we will go to Moses.
Thanks for having me. My name is Moses Adoko. I'm a volunteer for PMI, but my full-time job, I'm the Chief Knowledge Officer for the NASA Goddard Space Flight in the United States. Project management practice and development in Africa is a passion of mine, and so I have volunteered for PMI over the years. Currently, I'm also a member of the African Working Group, trying to shape this conversation and the practice of this discipline across the continent. And so I'm glad to be here and be part of this panel conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Moses. The next person will be Lugi.
Good day, everyone. My name is Lungi Kambule. I am a program manager currently working at Vodacom, and I'm based in South Africa. I'm a PMP, I'm a member of the PMI and a volunteer of PMI. I also have an MBA, and I'm currently studying for a master's in digital business, and I'm honored to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Lungi. Can we have CU Ville?
I'm Sivwile Peter, Senior Manager at Broadband Infraco, a state-owned company in South Africa, responsible for CAPEX and project delivery. That's nationally in both rural and urban areas. I joined Broadband Infraco from MTN, where I worked at the same level as a senior manager in program management. Traveled to Africa, went to Ghana, Cameroon, Benin. I hold an honors degree, BSc honors degree from University of Pretoria, master's in business leadership, UNISA, and I'm currently studying towards Masters of Science in project management at University of Pretoria. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sibuyile, and thank you everyone for introducing yourselves. So we will go right into the questions. Thank you, panelists. Looking forward to a robust conversation. I also I'm a transformation and change management lead for Dangote Industries, and I'm involved in a lot of projects, both software projects, application projects, and different kind of projects within the organization. I am happy to be here with a group of experienced project managers in different industries and different fields to tackle the few questions that we want to talk about today. And I'll go right to the first question. So my first question today is, has there been a shift to priority projects due to the pandemic? An example of how the pandemic has impacted the health sector. COVID-19 has triggered a range of new health projects. Since the production of a vaccine takes time, we have seen governments shifting resources to pandemic response projects like quarantine facilities, testing centers, vaccine supply chain facilities, and running nationwide projects to implement emergency response to the pandemic. Could you share a similar example in your sector of how project priorities are changing due to the pandemic? The first person that will ask this question is Lungi, and after Lungi, Bayo will also answer the same question. So over to you, Lungi.
Thanks, Adiola. Yes, there definitely has been a shift, and I can share some examples. So I'm in an environment where the majority of what we used to implement was your dedicated fiber or your wireless links to customer branches, as well as servers, switches, IP phones, and some racks. However, since COVID-19, we have seen a decrease in those types of projects and an increase in the data usage types of projects, as well as data connectivity from home. There's a product that is called APN, which stands for Access Point Name, which is basically what staff in an organization would use to connect remotely to the company's network. With all of us working from home, we saw a massive increase in the sizes as well as the usage of APNs. So customers that usually had APNs of about 1 gig increased their APN size to as much as 10 gigs due to the working from home. Also, initially an APN could only be upgraded or downgraded once a month, and that would be on the first of the month. But with COVID-19, it has resulted in a process change where APNs could now be upgraded or downgraded even in the middle of the month. Also, as a result of the pandemic, some of the business rules have changed as well, where, for example, a project of creating an APN that would usually take about 10 days has now been reduced to 2 days to cater for the situations that our customers are finding ourselves in. Another priority project that we saw was around reverse billing. So reverse billing is where, for example, a company would zero rate the usage of their website for customers. In South Africa, this change of zero rating the usage was very welcomed, especially considering that there is a cost associated with data. And this was especially welcome for students because as we stand now in South Africa, we have over 700 academic related websites that have been zero rated. This means that a student has got access to their university or their institution's resources without having the need to purchase data. We also saw the same sort of increase when it came to large companies, for example, funeral parlors. We have a lot of funeral parlors who have also zero rated their websites, the website that you can go to purchase a funeral policy, because they did this seeing an opportunity to make more money due to COVID-19. We're also seeing a major shift when it comes to the public sector, in that in many instances, you'll find that, for example, leave booking was done on a piece of paper. That piece of paper would then go through to a manager to be signed off and then be sent to HR. Also, when it comes to signatures, you'll have a clerk that would walk around in the office to collect the various signatures from the relevant managers. However, due to COVID-19, we are seeing quite a number of government institutions that are either digitizing or conducting digital transformations to cater for the change that the pandemic has brought. Thank you, Adiola.
Thank you very much, Lungi, for those practical examples You have told us about the data usage, which everyone knows has gone up, and how your priorities have changed as an organization. But can you please elaborate on the effects of those changes? How easy was it for you to incorporate those changes? How easy, what challenges did you face incorporating those changes and switching those priorities for the specific projects you have mentioned?
I think initially when it started, there was a bit of a difficulty in terms of changing mindset, and it was a bit difficult to get people to accept that, you know, things are changing and this is something that we have to accept as a new norm. But fortunately, with more explanations and actually showing people that, you know, this is not just something that's limited to us, but it's literally affecting everyone. You know, there must be a change. So in the beginning, it was a bit of a challenge, but as time went and people got used to it, it became much easier for people to adjust to the new normal.
Excellent. Thank you, Lungi. Bayo, do you want to also tell us your experience with the prioritization of projects and challenges that has entailed?
Thank you, Adiola, for the opportunity to answer and provide some also my experience on top of what Lungi has said. I think back where I am, I sit in the oil and gas industry, gas to be precise, where we have to sell our gas to customers in various parts of the country. And as you know, COVID impacted the global economy where the oil prices were down. And most of the time, the gas prices are linked to oil prices. So there was a decrease in revenue to us as a company. And what we did was to step back and look at all the opportunities and projects that were in flight and those that were about to start. So when I say those that were in flight, those that we had contractors already executing those projects. So we call them in flight. And those that were still on the table, on the drawing board, we had to look at them and they are put in place, which we had already, a prioritization process to look at those opportunities, classify them into what is required to run our assets and what are the supporting projects like infrastructure, additional offices, accommodation, and all sorts. One thing we ring-fenced was our corporate social responsibility projects, which we were doing for the community where we operate, our host community. That was ring-fenced and that was left as it is. But the good thing about it is when you have a practical process that all the stakeholders are bought into and you run that process, and the output shows what projects you can continue working on and where you should move your resources into, because you know your resources are not infinite. There was passion in the room, and what we did mostly was we also leveraged on technology. So technology was our key leverage, in the sense that we could not be physically in the same room. So we had to connect virtually using various tools, MS Teams, Zoom, and all that, to go through the process of identifying the project. So it was quite engaging, burdensome, but at the end of the day, we came up with a list of projects where we needed to focus on during the COVID period. They were not that the projects were cancelled, but they were just kept in the warmer or in the cooler for things to materialize, so we understand. And if you remember in 2020, basically between March and August, nobody had a direction of where or had a clue the direction of the COVID, how it was going to pan out. So we were just kept things in the cooler and said, okay, we'll come back to it when we have a good direction. And now that things are open, there's vaccines all over the place now. We are now looking at those projects again and reprioritizing them using various tools, NPVs, order rates, internal rate of return to justify those projects, making sure that the business case pre-COVID and the business case post-COVID are still there for us to chase those projects and opportunities. So that's the way we attended to it in my own sector. And we still keep, it's still work in progress. It's a daily thing because now we have the Delta variant and we don't know what direction that's going to take us as well. So we need to keep our resources tight and ensure that we contribute to make dividends available to our shareholders. So that's the main priority for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bayo. Thank you for the additional insights, talking about the uncertainties that we experienced during that initial COVID period, not knowing what was going to happen, when it was going to end. At the beginning of the lockdown in March, we didn't know when the lockdown was going to end. So there was a lot of uncertainty associated with that. And also talking about technology being an enabler. Thank you very much. We all had to switch to working remotely, and we had to switch to heavy use of data and also heavy use of virtual meetings and all the tools that were available for us to use. So thank you very much. We're going to go to the next question. The next question is going to Sibuyile. And the question is, COVID-19 has affected most homesteads and almost all staff, leading to loss of productive time in inpatient time or compassionate leaves for affected families. This lost time could stall some projects and redirect resources. Has your organization faced this kind of impact? As project managers we put into consideration support for mental health for our staff during these difficult times. Sibuyile, do you want to give us an experience that you've had in this situation with maybe staff members having lost people during the COVID, having to have some resources within a project that have to be redirected or supported during this time? Please let us have your experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Adiola. Definitely, it has affected most of the homesteads around here in South Africa and Broadband Infraco as a company. The annualized GDP in South Africa basically dropped by almost 1% in Q2 of 2020. People have lost their incomes, people have died, and that has definitely affected how then families are able to support themselves. I think the percentage in terms of household spending around that time was around 49%. Productivity has definitely then been affected as resources are reduced. Employees are on quarantine during the same periods. Regular or lack of suitable workspace as well, or stable home connectivity. As you would know, that South Africa, there's a huge gap in terms of digital divide. SMMEs as well, small companies that were employing few people, they have been affected a lot in terms of losing income, huge debt. As entrepreneurs, as we know how entrepreneurs operate, basically they don't have a lot in their bank account. They rely fully on the business and the economic growth. And those SMEs are usually youth, women, as being driven by our government in South Africa. So with those happening, what had happened in our industry in terms of telecommunication, we saw a very steep growth in terms of requirement for demand, broadband demand requirements. And this then also supported some of the industry players in terms of the same SMEs that were in the industry, getting some revenue to support themselves. Broadband Infraco as well got a lot of orders. So as a company, what we do, we provide backhaul mainly in most of the operators in the country, your mobile operators, your Vodacoms, your MTNs. We've got a network of about 14,900 fiber nationally, and we've got presence in all the SADC border posts. So any demand in capacity or bandwidth does by any means end up being some of our requirements as well. And we have to roll out those projects. And we have intervened, supported the government in terms of understanding exactly what are the complications, how can we support where we need to support, because we understand the space that we operate in. Government had to allocate some temporary spectrum as well, and this boosted some of the revenues for the same companies that were affected by the changes. They went out, they had to do a feasibility study, came to Broadband Infraco for support and some direction in terms of understanding what was required. So we are a driver. We have been affected, but however, some of the revenues that have come through have provided at least some relief for us as a company and some of the operators that we work with. Thanks, Adoko.
Thank you very much, Sibuyile. That's also very informative. How you were able to navigate the resources based on the happenings of COVID. I'm going to go to the next question, and the next question is going to go to Moses. Right now, currently, businesses are operating in a dynamic and uncertain context. Even more so now, in response to COVID-19, as it keeps going back and forth, rising and falling. We thought we were almost out of the woods yet until another Delta variant came into play. And so we are operating in this VUCA world, which has really become more VUCA. And we want to know, how has this impacted the way project managers approach project management?
That's right.
In your
That's
opinion,
right.
Moses.
Yes, Adiola, thank you for this question. Thank you for this question. It's a very important question. Project managers, as we know, are trained to deal with uncertainties in the form of risk, sometimes as far as stretching it in the sector within which I work, the aerospace sector, sometimes stretching it as far as into domains that we call unknown unknowns. So uncertainty isn't anything new to project management or the project management discipline, and for that matter, project managers. But the curveball, if I may use that expression, that was brought onto this discipline by the COVID pandemic was unprecedented. Nobody saw that coming. In fact, we can all argue or probably agree that there is no tool set out there that have prepared project managers on how to deal with uncertainties introduced by the pandemic, like COVID. So how did we handle this? There are two instances that I can share that I think have relevance to the African region. The first one is about international collaboration. There are missions that we undertake in terms of space exploration or within the aerospace sector as a general that involve international partners. There are key decisions that often when we have to make, we have to have our international partners at the table. And the global response to this pandemic was all over the map. Different countries gave a different response, as you would expect. And I think a lot of textbooks and case studies will be done on this, the response that was given to this pandemic. And that did affect project management, planning, when to meet, when to execute. In fact, within my specific domain, it was so challenging to the extent that sometimes in considering some orbital mechanics and what we call launch windows, when it's appropriate, we have a limited time span to actually launch certain missions. And if you don't have your partners ready to engage, because they've redirected resources into responding to the pandemic, or they can't get key stakeholders to attend to decision-making. That's really an uncertainty that is really out of this world, if I may borrow that expression. So it was very unique. In some cases, we have to allow our project managers to simply allow schedule to slip, something that is unheard of, right? Because we have 4 parameters that often we manage toward in terms of project success metrics, which is performance. In our case, we talk about technical performance, managing schedule, cost, and then of course, risk. But this was so unprecedented, we have to literally say, you know what, as a project manager, do what you have to do. Some were literally, I will say this, some were literally paying what I'll call an army of employees, and they can't perform, they can't come to site to get a job done. So this was very unique, and it did impact how we perform. The other thing that I think it's yet to be resolved is about the tools that we have for this practice. Some of the tools that we are used to as a discipline for doing schedule management, I think we have to look at them again in terms of uncertainty. How do you quickly go back to rearrange how these tools, these predictive tools that can help you manage schedule, cost, uncertainty, I don't think we have ever had this kind of challenge before in this discipline. So it was all over the map. And for the sake of time, I'll just say we did what we could, but there isn't any best practice that I can really pull out to say this response was really great. I can't wait for this to play out, for us to really get back to the drawing board and start extrapolating and gathering best case studies as to how to respond to who knows what the next pandemic would be, and how the project management discipline can respond to schedule challenges, cost challenges, international collaboration challenges, when you can't really meet your partners and you still have to press forward with project implementation. So that's all I have to share for the sake of time on this question.
Thank you very much, Moses. Indeed, unprecedented times that no one could have predicted. And that's, we're all just trying to do our best to ensure that we still have good outcomes and results. I'm going to ask Lungi to back this up with whatever experience she has with the uncertainty of the times that we have been operating in the last 1.5 years. Thank you. Over to you, Lungi.
Thanks once again, Adiola. So in regards to the uncertainty that we are having at the moment, we seeing, for example, the scoping of our projects has become slightly challenging, in that when it comes to a scoping session, previously we would all meet in one room, especially in the context of the complex projects. You know, we would be able to meet face-to-face, we would be able to deliberate, we would be able to have those whiteboard sessions and everybody have a chance to explain. We'd be able to easily devise the project schedule. However, with COVID-19, it has to obviously disrupted that, in that we now have to almost makeshift with tools that we have that are online, which does make it a little bit, which has made the process a little bit slower than what it was before. The other challenge that we've seen is just around team building. You know, with face-to-face encounters, even though we did not have a physical team building exercise where we went to a place for a team building, it was much easier for us to just have team building in a boardroom, and we would do like maybe a little quiz, or just ask each person to rate their day out of 10. It just used to be easier when we were face to face. So now with COVID-19, we almost sometimes feel that we're distanced to our teams, and sometimes a lot of people are not comfortable in terms of opening up their cameras. We're also seeing that there's less contact, you know, with staff. Initially, we could easily have the water cooler discussions, and those discussions would help to facilitate knowledge sharing in a very quick and unstructured manner. We also used to be able to very quickly resolve issues, in that I could walk up to an engineer's desk and we could quickly devise a solution to an issue. But with COVID, we now have more reliance to the communication tools that we have at our disposal. For example, Microsoft Teams, Skype, emails, as well as the virtual meetings. Also, getting an answer to a simple question, you know, can now feel like an obstacle. But before, it was very easy to just go to someone's desk and get an answer. So with that, we've created some online forum where we'll create a team, add all the resources in that team, and whenever somebody sends a question, you know, someone will answer. So we're even creating creative names for it, like it will say who knows what, just for those who have a quick question at that time and just need a quick answer to a question that does not necessarily need you to be phoning someone or setting up a meeting to get that answer. There's also been an impact in the way that projects are being managed, in that, you know, we've had to manage and monitor our goals a bit more closer. And because we hardly ever see each other, it almost feels like some project resources feel like they're disconnected from the rest of the team. Therefore, that has given a rise to more frequent check-in sessions. Those have become very beneficial, because without a check-in session, we could easily go for about 2 weeks without ever verbally engaging someone, because they're performing, they're sending emails, they're reaching their goals. But you know, there is that disconnects that's starting. So check-ins have also become very important. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lungi. Very, very informative, insightful. I can also relate with that. We've had to be very creative with team bonding, the check-in sessions. We've actually had to have virtual war rooms during projects where everybody on a go live session, everybody has to be engaged at the same time. And we've definitely felt this disconnect sometimes if we are not careful. So thank you very much. That's been very, very insightful. And we're going to go to our next question, which will probably be our last question. And this question is going to go to Bayo. How do you engage your stakeholder and maintain relevance of project activities during the COVID period, as opposed to what you used to do prior to COVID? Have you seen the need to restructure stakeholder communications to emphasize the relevance of the ongoing projects, despite the pandemic, to avoid resources being redirected to other emergency response projects? How have you handled your sponsors and communicated with your stakeholders at all the different levels to ensure project success during the COVID period? Bayo?
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Adiola, for the question. And so, if, as you know, the COVID pandemic is a health crisis that has project managers in the world, all over the world, grappling with the well-being and livelihood of their communities. So the challenges that we faced in projects was unprecedented. And like Moses mentioned, as project managers, we are trained to manage the various risks thrown to us. But this was a risk of eclipse or of a magnitude that we've not heard of in a long while, in a decade or so, or in centuries. And one thing we did differently where I work was I lead a team of about 15 to 16 project managers, and we run a portfolio of projects. So we have about 60 odd projects that we have in our portfolio. So what we did was, first, we had to step back and say, okay, change is inevitable. So the question is, how do we manage this change and how do we manage this risk? And if you look at it, as project managers, when was the last time we ever completed a project exactly as planned? As project managers, we manage risk. It doesn't go according to the plan. That's why we have a risk management plan where we have all the mitigations necessary for us. So what we had to do is that communication with our stakeholders was key. And like I mentioned earlier, we leveraged on technology. I'll give you an example. We have a process where when we want to initiate, I think Lungi mentioned about it, where you come into a room and then you do your scoping of a project, understand the business case, the value drivers and all. We were about to do what we call a framing workshop, and we're going to use external consultants that we normally use for framing sessions. And we were going to use technology for the first time in a long while to do a framing workshop. And we had to leverage on what we call Mural, which was a new technology, it's like a whiteboard. And the first thing I heard from the consultant was, how are we going to manage 30 people in a room, or a virtual room, to do this workshop? But I'll tell you, I sit here and tell you that it was of extreme success, that I would always recommend a virtual workshop, because gone are the days of people getting up from the workshop to go pick up a phone outside the room. Gone are the days of people getting up to take coffee, distracting other people. It went very, very well. So we leveraged on technology. That was the first thing we did with our stakeholders. And then as project managers, as you know, at least 80% of what we do is to communicate with our stakeholders, be it our team, be it our contractors, supervisors, vendors, or customers. So when communication goes very, very well, it leads to great outcomes. But a lot can go wrong very quickly when we don't communicate properly. So COVID threw a curveball at us, and we had to respond by restructuring and rejigging how we communicate on those different projects with different stakeholders, because everybody's stakeholder needs are different, and how they want to be communicated with. We call it laptop or social media overload or virtual meeting overload, where a stakeholder having crashed and had several meetings doesn't want to be communicated or communicate with you on another virtual face-to-face meeting. So you have to look for different ways, because people were managing different mental health issues. So we have to look and customize the stakeholder engagement to suit the individual needs of the stakeholders, especially the major ones and the critical ones we needed to carry along on a particular project. So what we did differently as well was that, like I mentioned, was we made sure that we were visible. We were communicating using the various tools, weekly reports, jingles, video clips of the site progress. Remember, people were not able to go to site in the numbers we expect on a construction site, so we had to streamline also the people on site. So we have to depend on technology, drones, wearable bands, where also for contact tracing, where we have exposure on a particular site, we could use wearable bands to know who was in contact with that person at a particular time. So those were the kind of things we did, and it actually helps, and it's helping us. And are we going to go back to pre-COVID times where we did not leverage on technology? I don't think so. We will continue leveraging on technology to make sure that our stakeholders are abreast and they support our projects as we go forward. So that's been my experience so far, and I think it's working well. Thank you very much, Adiola.
Wow. Thank you so much, Bayo. That was very engaging. Having to be very creative in stakeholder engagement, which is the biggest part of project management, of change management. We are very grateful. And we have come to the end of this session. It's been very, very engaging and very informative talking to all of you. We are very grateful to have also been able to learn from your various experiences in the various sectors on project management in this last year. We want to say a big thank you to everyone, and we hope that our audience has enjoyed this session. And we just want to wish everyone all the best as you all manage your different projects at different levels. We hope that this session has been useful in helping you with some information and some actions that you can, some actionable items that you can actually use to positively enhance your project management skills. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adoko. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.